Why does life seem to reward the ruthless? Why do the most selfish, manipulative, and morally bankrupt individuals rise to the top, while those who live with integrity are left behind? You've seen it yourself. The cutthroat CEO who crushes competitors, the corrupt politician who gains more influence, the toxic friend who somehow commands admiration. Meanwhile, the kind, honest, and hard-working struggle to get ahead. Why? Most of us are raised to believe that good people win in the end. We're taught that if we work hard, play fair, and treat others with respect, life will reward us. But what if that's a lie? What if success has nothing to do with morality and everything to do with power? Schopenhauer believed that life isn't governed by fairness, but by dominance. He argued that the will to live, the blind, relentless force that drives human existence, favors those who act with strength, not kindness. Hesitation, moral contemplation, and fairness create vulnerability. The person who strikes first, takes risks, and manipulates without guilt is the one who secures power. But if that's true, does it mean morality is a weakness? Should we abandon integrity and embrace ruthlessness to survive? Or is there a way to succeed without sacrificing our values? Schopenhauer believed the key isn't to become ruthless, but to understand power itself. To thrive in a world that rewards dominance, you must separate morality from strategy. You don't need to become ruthless. You need to stop playing by rules that others aren't following. Let's break it down. Success isn't a reward for morality. It's a reward for dominance. Schopenhauer argued that the world doesn't operate on principles of fairness or justice. Life isn't designed to reward good behavior or punish wrongdoing. It simply reflects the brutal reality of survival. Those who act with confidence, aggression, and strategic precision will always outpace those who wait for life to recognize their virtue. At its core, human existence is driven by the will to live, a blind, irrational force that compels all living beings to seek survival and reproduction. This force doesn't care about fairness, it cares about power. In nature, survival depends on strength and adaptability. The predator thrives because it acts without hesitation. The prey perishes because it waits too long. This same dynamic exists in human society. It's just more complex. The corporate executive who manipulates competitors, the politician who exploits public trust, the social climber who deceives to gain influence. They all succeed because they understand the hidden structure of power. Ruthlessness works not because the world is broken, but because it reflects the primal nature of existence itself. The one who seizes control, shapes perception, and exploits weakness gains influence. The one who waits for justice gets left behind. Schopenhauer believed that morality often clashes with survival instincts. Compassion, fairness, and integrity introduce hesitation. Hesitation that the ruthless exploit. While the moral person questions whether an action is right, the ruthless have already struck. Success isn't about fairness, it's about decisiveness. The one willing to act without hesitation, seize opportunities without guilt, and dominate without fear of consequences will always rise higher. Schopenhauer's brutal truth is this: power rewards those who take it, not those who deserve it. To him, strength and morality aren't just separate forces. They're often in direct conflict. Strength is action, dominance, and survival. Morality is restraint, compassion, and fairness. But in a world driven by the will to live, a blind force that favors survival and dominance, strength is rewarded, while morality becomes a liability. The strong act. They make decisions without hesitation, pursue goals without guilt, and secure power without seeking approval. They aren't weighed down by moral conflict or emotional sensitivity. They understand that life isn't a fair competition. It's a brutal fight for dominance. The moment you hesitate to consider whether an action is ethical, you give power to someone who doesn't care. Schopenhauer didn't see this as a flaw in human nature, but as a reflection of life's fundamental structure. Moral individuals hesitate. They carefully weigh their decisions, considering the impact on others. They seek fairness, cooperation, and consensus. But in a competitive world, hesitation creates vulnerability. The one who pauses to consider morality loses time and leverage. The one who strikes first controls the narrative. Strength doesn't seek approval, it imposes itself. This is why the most ruthless individuals often rise to power. They aren't shackled by guilt or the need to protect others. To them, morality is a weakness, a limitation that prevents others from securing control. Schopenhauer argued that this is why strength and morality rarely coexist. Success demands clarity and decisiveness. The strong act. The moral question. And in a world governed by dominance, questioning is the fastest path to weakness. Most people are raised to believe that life is fair, that hard work, honesty, and playing by the rules will eventually be rewarded. Schools, religions, and social institutions reinforce this idea, teaching that virtue leads to success and wrongdoing leads to punishment. But Schopenhauer saw this belief as a comforting illusion, a story designed to create social order, not to describe reality. In nature, there is no fairness. The lion that hunts the weakest gazelle isn't being unfair, it's surviving. And the gazelle that hesitates becomes prey, regardless of how moral or deserving it might be. Human society operates under the same brutal logic. Power doesn't flow to the virtuous. It flows to those who know how to seize it. History doesn't support the idea that the good guy always wins. That story exists to pacify people, to make them easier to govern and control. Schopenhauer believed fairness is a psychological coping mechanism, a way to soften the harshness of reality. It's easier to believe that hard work and honesty will lead to success than to face the truth. Life is chaotic. Success is not guaranteed, and those who play by the rules are often left behind by those who break them. The world doesn't operate on justice. It operates on strength, strategy, and adaptability. This is why ruthless individuals thrive. They aren't burdened by the illusion of fairness. They don't expect life to reward their virtue. They understand that power isn't given, it's taken. And while moral people wait for recognition, the ruthless are already 3 steps ahead, shaping the outcome to their advantage. Ruthlessness isn't a flaw, it's an evolutionary advantage. Schopenhauer believed that human nature isn't built on cooperation and fairness. It's built on survival and dominance. Those who rise to power are rarely the most moral. They are the most strategic. Ruthlessness works not because it is cruel, but because it bypasses the hesitation and emotional conflict that weaken others. A ruthless person makes decisions quickly, without moral doubt. They aren't slowed by guilt or empathy. If betraying someone creates an advantage, they betray without hesitation. If manipulating a situation secures more control, they manipulate without remorse. Ruthlessness creates power because it allows a person to act with speed and clarity while others hesitate. Schopenhauer saw this as a reflection of the will to live. The will does not care about morality. It cares about survival and strength. In a competitive world, hesitation is weakness. The one who dominates the room, controls the narrative, and takes action first holds the advantage. Ruthless individuals secure power because they understand this dynamic. They don't wait for permission or moral validation. They act, and in doing so, they force others to adapt to their lead. But ruthlessness isn't just about taking action. It's about strategic detachment. A ruthless person knows that emotional involvement weakens control. They stay calm when others are emotional. They remain detached when others are vulnerable. They anticipate weaknesses in others while protecting their own. They don't just strike first. They strike where it hurts the most. This is why the ruthless thrive in business, politics, and social dynamics. They understand the hidden structure of power. They see hesitation as a vulnerability to exploit, and morality as a strategic disadvantage. Power is not given to the most deserving. It is secured by those who are willing to take it, and those who hesitate often find themselves at the mercy of those who don't. Schopenhauer believed that good people are often disadvantaged, not because they lack intelligence or capability, but because their morality creates hesitation. A moral person considers the impact of their decisions on others. They think before they act, weigh the consequences, and question whether their actions are ethical. But in a world where dominance and power define success, hesitation becomes a weakness that others exploit. Good people assume that others follow the same moral principles they do. They believe that honesty, fairness, and integrity will be recognized and rewarded. But to the ruthless, this is an opportunity. A person who operates with integrity is predictable. Their hesitation and emotional sensitivity make them easy to manipulate. The ruthless know that the moral person will avoid confrontation, hesitate to betray, and struggle with decisions that require aggression. This creates an imbalance of power. Schopenhauer saw human interaction as a struggle for dominance, not because people are inherently cruel, but because the will to live drives them to secure survival and influence. A moral person resists this dynamic. They prioritize cooperation over competition, connection over control, but the ruthless thrive on competition. They anticipate the hesitation of moral individuals and use it to their advantage. While the moral person wonders whether they should take a step forward, the ruthless have already seized control. This is why good people often feel used or betrayed. Their willingness to trust, to give others the benefit of the doubt, leaves them vulnerable. Schopenhauer believed that moral individuals are often left behind, not because they lack strength, but because they expect life to operate on moral principles. The ruthless, however, understand the truth. Life rewards strategy, not fairness. And those who hesitate to act are left behind by those who don't. Schopenhauer believed that while ruthlessness may lead to success, it rarely leads to peace. A person who builds their life on dominance and manipulation secures power, but at a hidden cost. Success gained through ruthlessness creates external control, but internal emptiness. The more one relies on deception, force, and emotional detachment, the further they drift from genuine connection and meaning. Ruthlessness demands constant maintenance. Power gained through manipulation must be defended through manipulation. The person who lies to rise to the top must keep lying to stay there. The one who dominates through fear must constantly suppress rebellion. Success becomes a fragile structure, held together by constant vigilance and calculated aggression. And this takes a deep psychological toll. Schopenhauer argued that the will to live drives us toward dominance, but it also ensures that satisfaction is temporary. The person who builds their life on power will eventually face a painful realization. Control does not create peace. It creates anxiety, the isolation of ruthlessness. Another inevitable consequence is isolation. The ruthless gain power by exploiting trust and vulnerability, but this builds a wall between them and genuine human connection. The people around them become tools, not allies. Relationships are built on strategy, not trust. They become surrounded by people who fear them, not people who understand them. Schopenhauer saw this as the natural consequence of living according to the will to power. The more a person relies on dominance, the less they are capable of vulnerability. And without vulnerability, true connection is impossible. The paradox of power. The paradox of ruthlessness is that it creates external success while deepening internal emptiness. The person who climbs through manipulation may reach the top, but when they look around, they will find themselves standing there alone. Schopenhauer's warning was clear. Dominance may secure power, but it rarely secures peace. True strength lies in detachment. Schopenhauer believed that true strength does not come from dominance, it comes from detachment. The person who rises through ruthlessness is trapped in an endless cycle of control and defense. But the person who no longer seeks validation through power is free from the game altogether. Power over others, Schopenhauer argued, is an illusion. The only real power is mastery over oneself. The ruthless live in constant fear of losing control, haunted by the need to maintain dominance, manipulate outcomes, and guard against threats. Their strength is fragile because it depends on the weakness of others. But the person who lets go of the need for dominance gains something far more powerful: inner stability. When you stop measuring success by external outcomes, you stop being vulnerable to loss. When you stop seeking control over others, you stop fearing failure. Schopenhauer believed that detachment is not weakness, it is the highest form of strength. The person who is unaffected by praise or criticism cannot be manipulated. The person who accepts loss without feeling diminished cannot be controlled. The person who no longer needs to dominate others cannot be threatened. This is not surrender. This is transcendence, the ultimate freedom. The one who no longer seeks validation or control becomes truly untouchable. To transcend the game is not to reject strength. It is to redefine it. Schopenhauer saw wisdom not as the ability to dominate, but as the ability to rise above the need for dominance. The truly powerful person is not the one who holds others down, but the one who no longer needs to prove themselves. When you detach from the struggle for dominance, you stop being a player in the game, And when you stop playing, you finally see the game for what it really is, a trap designed to control those who seek power. True strength lies not in winning, but in no longer needing to compete.